Math Conquerors, and welcome again to math. Today we are going to be talking about solving equations by factoring. A quadratic equation can be written in the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is not equal to 0. Some equations of the form x squared by bx plus c equals 0 can be solved by factoring and then using the zero product property. Now notice it said some equations. In a few lessons we're going to be studying a new formula to solve these quadratic equations. But for today we're going to be using the zero product property. Okay, let's take a look at that. Here you see we have an example, and it says x squared plus 6x equals 27. Now so far in our problems, it has only asked us to factor each polynomial. But now our instructions are going to say solve each equation and check your solutions. So we're going to solve, and then we're going to check. Now before we can solve this, we need to set it equal to 0 because we're going to be using the zero product property. So in order to set this equal to 0, I need to move this positive 27. When I move the positive 27, it's going to make it a negative 27. Then I have to ask myself, what are two numbers I can multiply together to get a negative 27, but when I subtract them, I get a positive 6. Well, a positive 9 and a negative 3 would give me a negative 27, and if I subtract them, I would get a positive 6x. Notice this is all still set equal to 0. We're using the zero product property. So now I can say x plus 9 equals 0. And if you move a positive 9 over, that gives you a negative 9. And then I can say x minus 3 equals 0. Move my negative 3, and that will give me a positive 3. Then they want us to check. So what I have to do, I have to take this formula, which we're calling now a quadratic equation, and we're going to put the negative 9 in place of the x. So a negative 9 times a negative 9 would give me an 81. And then a negative 9 times a 6 would give me minus 54. And then I have to subtract 27, and notice it's equal to 0. Let's bring this down here where we can see a little bit better. Now if I take the 3 and I say 3 times 3, that would be 9. And 3 times 6 would be plus 18. Minus 27, and there I get 0 again. Remember, I'm using the zero product property, so my answers should check out to be 0. Okay? Alright, let's look at a few more examples. Okay, so let's look at example number 1, and it says z squared minus 3z equals 70. So notice this is not equal to 0. So I need to move a positive 70. That would make it a negative 70, which is equal to 0. Then I have to ask myself, what are two numbers I could multiply together that they would give me a negative 70, but when I subtract them, I get a negative 3. And that would be a negative 10 plus 7. If I put z minus 10 equals 0, that would give me a positive 10. Z plus 7 equals 0 would give me a negative 7. Because how do you move a negative 10? You make it a positive 10. How do you move over a plus 7? A negative 7. So now we need to plug these back into our formula and see if they are equal to 0. So let's check it out. So 10 times 10 would be 100. And then 10 times a negative 3 would give me a negative 30. and then minus 70. And there's my 0. So the 10 checks out. Now we're going to check out the negative 7. We're putting it in the place of z because z is now equal to a negative 7. So negative 7 times a negative 7 will be 49. And a negative 3 times a negative 7 will be a positive 21. And then minus 70. And look at there. Checks out to 0 again. Okay? Let's look at this one. This one's already set to 0. We did not have to move the 70. We didn't have to move anything over here, but over here we had to move the 70. Okay, so let's look. We have x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0. Now we've already been solving these polynomials. The only new thing we're doing is setting them equal to 0, like up here. We're just saying x plus 9 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. Okay? So, we're going to say, what can I multiply to get a negative 18? And when I subtract it, I get a 3. So that would be 6 times 3. And if you multiply that, you get a negative 18. You subtract it, you get a positive 3. If I say x plus 6 equals 0, I would have to move my positive x, which would give me a negative x. And then if I set x minus 3 equals to 0, if I move my negative 3, it will give me a positive 3. Then all I have left to do is check my solution. So first I'm going to plug in my negative 6. I'm plugging it in, this quadratic equation. That's the new name for this. That's what we're calling it. As long as a is not equal to 0, this is going to be a quadratic equation. Okay, so I'm going to say negative 6 times a negative 6 will give me a 36. A negative 6 times a positive 3 will give me a negative 18. And then I'm going to subtract 18, and there's my 0. Now I have to do the 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 18. And there's my 0 again. Okay? Now you should be able to work worksheet page 38.